I think the most excited guys on the sideline were Mike Evans and Jameis. You know, when they saw the two completions and Matt make the kick, and they're going crazy. So, yeah, it bleeds into next week's practice. It really does.
You always remember your first one, and Bruce Arians, knowing he appreciated his first victory ever as Buccaneers head coach, albeit a preseason victory, his first victory inside Raymond James Stadium. And of course, he was alluding to Jameis Winston and Mike Evans soaking in that fourth quarter comeback as Ryan Griffin led the troops and Matt Gay, the hero of the day, with the game-winning 48-yard field goal. Welcome in to another rendition of A Few Extra Bucs, our Bucs podcast here on PewterPirates.com. A lot to get to. We're going to do our first installment of Rank and File. We're going to rank Jameis Winston against every starting quarterback in the NFL. You'll have to stick around for that. Is he Jason Light or Jason Lucky? We'll talk about his contract extension for the Buccaneer GM, and we'll get into the Bucs kicker and more sound with Jameis Winston. And of course, if you stay all the way to the end, we have our more likely segment. So, Justin Thomas, we got a packed show, my producer, don't we?
Yeah, this could be one of the best ones yet.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one. Roy Cummings, we sat next to each other and saw history, Bruce Arians' first victory as Buccaneers head coach. And I had to wake you up. You had to wake me up for about 3+ quarters, but that was a pretty good finish. And I think all in all, you can't evaluate or get too high or too low with a lot of positions, I think, except for kicker, because A, the Bucs have struggled for so long, and B, this is a guy, Matt Gay, they drafted, and you can kind of put him in those game-like situations, especially a game winner. And if he steps up like that, I think it's a reason to celebrate a little bit.
Yeah, I do too. Look, 55-yarder in the first exhibition game, now a game winner from 48 yards in tough conditions. I mean, obviously, and not a dry field. It was a wet field, wet ball, the whole bit. So, I think he's been challenged almost as, I hate to, after a couple of games, almost as much as you're going to be challenged in the NFL. Granted, the real pressure is going to be different when he gets into a game that matters. But, for exhibition season, being asked to kick from 55 yards and being asked to kick a game winner with 48 yards on a not ideal surface, I think that says a lot about who this kicker is. And look, it just confirms everything we've seen in training camp workouts. This guy's pretty strong and tremendous leg, fairly accurate, it seems. I think they may have finally found themselves a kicker here.
And it's about time. The Bucs were more than due to find a place kicker. Matt Gay, we mentioned it, the game-winning 48-yarder. He's had a 55-yarder. I had a chance to catch up with him after the game. And first off, ask him about his pressure, and he also talked about what that game-winning kick meant. Your confidence, though, having a kick like this in that kind of situation?
Obviously, it builds it. I mean, every time you see ball go through the uprights, it builds your confidence to have a game winner like that. To have your first one, really, in the NFL is huge. I mean, that just boosts you way up. I mean, lets you know that you can do it, you can be here, you belong here in the NFL. And I think that's what everyone in this locker room is waiting to find out, that they belong here and that they deserve to be here. And that's kind of what it felt like tonight.
Finally, Matt, do you feel like you've always embraced pressure? I mean, you're a draft pick. You're a guy who's had a lot of pressure coming into this camp. It seems like you haven't flinched since you've been here.
No, I love the pressure. I mean, at a young age playing soccer growing up, I mean, you take those penalty kicks. I always wanted to be fifth. I want to be the last one to take them. I wanted the game on my hands. I wanted to be the one to seal the deal. And so I've carried that mentality throughout my whole life. Grew up the youngest of 8 kids, and so I kind of had to have that mentality with them as well. And so, I mean, to be in this league, to be a kicker in this league, you've got to have that mentality. You got to embrace the pressure and overcome it. I mean, you can't shy from it. You got to attack it.
Roy, I love the confidence. A lot of kickers are confident, but they don't get it done on the field. He doesn't sound like a rookie to me.
No, he doesn't. In fact, he showed a little bit of veteran savvy after he conducted that interview. He walked away for a few minutes, and just as we were coming back from talking to Bruce Arians after the game, was funny how Matt Gay came up to a bunch of people in a media scrum coming out of that press conference and said, "Oh, hey, by the way, I just want to make sure everybody knows that that's not just me kicking that ball there. That I got a great snap, great hold. It's a unit, and if it weren't for those guys, that ball doesn't go through the upright." So a little veteran savvy there, coming back and making sure that he gives the credit to his battery mates, so to speak, in that kicking group. So a little veteran savvy. But you're right. I love the confidence. And hey, you know what? He should have plenty of it, because this is a guy who's done nothing but good things since he's come here. So he should be building a lot of confidence. It's shown on the field. That's what's most important.
Well, Roy, the only Buccaneer who had a better week than Matt Gay was general manager Jason Licht. It seems like he has finally found a kicker, and he gets a contract extension. I personally don't agree with the move. I think it's too early, but I also think that when Bruce Arians came aboard, Jason Licht was the reason. And Bruce Arians even said it this week. He was shocked that the news, wasn't leaked earlier. This apparently the decision was made months ago. I don't think it's a good move. What say you, Roy Cummings?
Well, I think it was a move that probably had to be made in order to secure Bruce Arians. I don't think Bruce Arians wanted to come in and have to go through a bunch of regime changes. I think he wanted to come in and know that at least during his first tenure here, during the 4 or 5 years that he's going to be here, or hopes to be here, that he's going to have everybody around him that he wants. And he came here not just for Jameis Winston, and not just because he could get Todd Bowles running his defense and Byron Leftwich running his offense, but he came here because he knows Jason Licht, he trusts Jason Licht, he likes Jason Licht's ability to find talent, and a lot of fans and obviously media members, and Mike, you're right there, disagree with it. But I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Show me the one free agent that Jason Licht signed that when he signed him, you said that was a mistake. I don't think there were any. And in terms of the draft, I think the record's a little bit better than people want to give him credit for. He's missed on some. There's no doubt. He's missed on some high picks. Certainly Roberto Aguayo didn't work out. But you know what? You don't judge players based on 1 or 2 years in the draft. You base them on where they are, after 3-4 years. And so let's see where they go from here. Here's one last thing on Jason Licht. He did not pick Lovie Smith. He came in when Lovie Smith was already in place as a general manager. Had very little to do with building that team. That was Lovie Smith's team. Lovie Smith had the power to pick the players he wanted. Jason Licht was really just kind of a guy to, make sure that they had some scouting in place and sign contracts. He didn't really pick Dirk Cutter either, because at that time, what the Bucs wanted to do and what the Glazers were looking to do was avoid losing Dirk Cutter, one of the best offensive coordinators in the game, and a guy who had obviously done things that no one else had done with the Bucs offense to that point. And the only way to do that was to make him your head coach. So he didn't have a choice in that matter either. This is the first coach that he's had a chance where the Glazers actually went to Jason Licht and said, "Who do you want? Who's the best coach we can get?" And he said, "Give me Bruce Arians," and it worked out for him. So, I'm not saying that you don't judge Jason Licht on what has happened before, but I do say this: I think the real truth of what Jason Licht is as a general manager kind of begins a little bit now, because he's finally got a coach that he wanted 100%, knows it's a head coach, and I do think he's done a little bit better job in the draft than people want to give him credit for.
Well, I disagree on a few points there, because to me, Mark Dominic had less money to spend. The Glazers kind of ponied up money with Jason Licht, and they virtually have the same record after Jason Licht's tenure here. And another point, to me, if you're a bad football team, Roy, often you have pretty good cap space. The Bucs are predicted to win 5 or 6 games by most people this year. They have a lot of question marks on both sides of the ball, and they're terrible in terms of the cap right now. I just think, Jason Licht, I just don't think he deserves it. I mean, 5 years, it's ridiculous to me based on his track record. I mean, Jason Licht won 0 playoff games as a general manager. You see GMs fired all over the NFL in much less time than Jason Licht, and he gets a 5-year extension. I mean, I think it's kind of unprecedented in a lot of ways.
I get it. And you, again, I know I'm in the minority on this and you're in the majority, I'm sure of it. But again, I'll say this. You look at the Arizona Cardinals right now, their last 5 first-round draft picks have been busts. You look at the New England Patriots. Nobody even really notices the misses that Bill Belichick has, or the guys that he drums out of New England after a year or two who are top 3-round picks. His track record isn't all that great either. I think if you break it down, if you really break it down and look at the number of players that Jason Licht has drafted, and I understand, look, I understand the record, and that is, I'm not trying to defend that. That's not good. But I think if you look at the draft, and you could probably compare Jason Licht's draft with take any other team in the NFL, and you'll see that he's really not that much different than any team, be it the Bears, the Chargers, the Chiefs. Take your pick. And a lot of it has to do with there's no question. This was something I believe that was all part of making sure that Bruce Arians was happy coming here and confident he was going to stick around. So Jason Licht, bought himself a life here. But at the end of the day, he's going to have to produce now for sure. So I think, we'll see what he's made of now.
Well, he had Mike Evans, he had Quan Alexander. Donovan Smith's kind of debatable on me. And Jameis Winston, Vernon Hargreaves, to me, are a big part of Jason Lucky's legacy. I mean, if Jameis Winston turns into a great quarterback of Bruce Arians and Hargreaves turns his career around, those drafts look a little bit better. But if those guys continue to play the way they've been playing, he's definitely Jason Lucky for sure.
Okay, well, all right. But before we go any further, though, I see what you're saying. And first of all, if the Bucs had taken Marcus Mariota number 1, Winston would have gone number 2. If the Bucs didn't take Vernon Hargreaves at number 11, he would have gone at number 12 or 13. If they didn't take, you can, and same with Noah Spence and Roberto Aguayo would have been gone by the 3rd round. That's how those drafts were falling. Jason Licht didn't take anybody out of order, so ridiculously high out of order that someone else wasn't going to come up and move and take that player. He's also done a damn good job, I think, of getting value out of those first-round picks because he's traded down into positions and still allowed the Buccaneers to get the player they wanted. And again, these are players who have, maybe they all haven't worked out exactly how you hope.
Yeah, but Roy, Vita Vea, the jury's still out. Derwin James is injured, but right now that looks like it was a whiff on Jason Licht's part. And another thing is, with Dirk Cutter and the way they play defense, Hargreaves really didn't match that defense. To me, as a GM, you got to work with your head coach and understand the kind of scheme that you're dealing with. And he hasn't drafted guys to the scheme. Now, that seems to be turning around a little bit, but it looks like, the DBs that he drafted potentially, under Dirk Cutter, now he had to redraft DBs for Todd Bowles and Bruce Arians. And you just can't do that in this league. You can't have wasted drafts. I mean, you mentioned Bill Belichick. I'll take Bill Belichick's record over anybody in this league, especially Jason Licht. I mean, I think Jason Light's a nice enough guy, but no way he deserves a 5-year extension. But he has Bruce Arians, and that's his carrot. That's pretty transparent. But there are so many whiffs with Jason Licht. And yeah, I would have picked Jameis Winston over Marcus Mariota. I get that. But Vernon Hargreaves, it's debatable on whether that was the right pick. O.J. Howard fell into his lap. Quan Alexander was a great pick. I would say if there's one case you can make for Jason Licht, it's the guys he's picked up after the draft, the Cam Brates, the Adam Humphreys. But within the draft, he's got drafts where they don't even have starters basically anymore. He has a couple All-Pros, and that's about it. That kind of track record, I'm sorry, you just don't deserve an extension.
Well, you expect starters out of your first 3 picks, the first 3 rounds. Then you're looking at depth players, and then you're looking at special teams guys. So I think when you break it down like that, his track record is as good as almost any. Okay, it's not as good as some, but it's not as bad as a lot of people want to make it out to be. Look, Noah Spence has started for this team when he's been healthy. Vernon Hargreaves starts for this team when he's healthy. You can't predict injuries
because they're bad, Roy.
And the argument
because they're bad, though. Could Noah Spence start for anybody else in this league?
Yes, he could. In a 3-4 scheme, he could. And I'll say this about, and you're right about, going through and redrafting players in the secondary. You're right. But I've said it 1,000 times. When you change coaches, you change schemes, and you change players. And that's what's happened here. And it's happened twice with Jason Licht. It's happened twice because they've changed schemes 3 times in the 5 years that he's been here running the show. So if you want to even say he's running the show, all I'm saying is this is the first time he's had a coach that he really had a hand in bringing here. He may be here still because of that coach. Maybe he's calling in a favor here. But again, I say we judge him on what we see from this point on because again, I think that just Bruce Arians brings something that the other coaches didn't have.
We'll just agree to disagree. I just see a lot of head coaches that have come through here, and I see the way they've come through. And Jason Licht wasn't a part of picking Lovie Smith, but But, I don't know. Bruce Arians, he's better thank his lucky stars. Bruce Arians is here. And, of course, they have that relationship. But as Bruce Arians mentioned, this happened a long time ago, but it just kind of came out this week. All right, let's move to the quarterback, Jameis Winston, such a big part of this football team. And we talked about doing this a couple weeks ago. We've gotten kind of crazy during camp with a lot of storylines. We don't have music for this, Justin Thomas, but I'm going to bring both of you guys back in, kind of a rapid-fire thing. I've always been a Jameis Winston supporter. And my gut has always told me Jameis Winston will do well in this league. And my gut's been wrong a few times because I thought he was past his character issues. I thought he was past his bad decision-making. My gut, once again, thinks Jameis Winston is going to have a good year because Bruce Arians is the perfect coach for him, which leads me to this, though. Jameis Winston is one of 32 starting quarterbacks in the league. Now, the Dolphins situation is kind of muddled a little bit, and potentially the Redskins situation is too. But I'm going to go with the quarterbacks who were on the first-team depth chart in both those cities. But we're going to break down all the quarterbacks in the NFL, guys, and see if how many Jameis Winston, how many teams you would take their quarterback over Jameis Winston. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I get it, but I think we can probably eliminate a few right
Okay.
off the top.
Well, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. Okay.
Over the guy in New Orleans
Okay,
or Green
I got
Bay.
you.
Or,
I'm with you. I got Brady.
New England.
I got Breeze. I got Mahomes. I got Rodgers. You want those guys over Jameis, right?
Yes.
I do, and yes, I would take Mahomes over Rodgers, right? Or over Jameis right now too. Yeah.
Okay.
I would.
Then we're going to make this quick for our listeners. This will be kind of fun. It's called Rank and File. We're doing it with Jameis Winston, and we'll do it with other players down the road. Would you take Jameis Winston over these quarterbacks? Okay, my second rung of quarterbacks in the NFL, guys. We admit Brady, Breeze, Mahomes, and Rodgers kind of upper echelon. Here's my second rung. Big Ben, Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck, Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford. Would you take Jameis Winston over any of those guys?
All of them.
Roy?
You starting with me?
Well, do you take Jameis Winston over any of those quarterbacks? Big Ben, Andrew Luck, Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson, Phillip Rivers.
I would probably take him over everybody but Russell Wilson, and here's why.
What?
Wow.
He's younger.
Are you
He's
serious?
younger. He's younger, and I don't know how much more.
Wow.
Look, Roethlisberger's having a hard time staying healthy and getting to the playoffs. Phillip Rivers, same thing. He's near the end.
Matt Ryan's your guy.
Well, I like Matt Ryan a lot. I would not take him over Matt Ryan. I would keep Matt Ryan. I would take Matt Ryan, and I would take Russell Wilson over Winston. But I would not take Winston over the other guys because Winston's still got upside, where the other guys are probably plateaued. And can they still get me to the playoffs? Yes. But who am I looking at? To get me through the next 5 years, I'll take Winston, but not over Matt Ryan and not over Russell Wilson.
This is about to get very interesting.
Wait, what were the others?
You would take Jameis Winston over Matthew Stafford?
I think I would because I don't think Matthew Stafford puts up some great numbers, but he's not getting to the playoffs on a regular basis either. So
I don't know. He's gotten them to the playoffs sooner than the Bucs have been.
Yeah, I hear you, but I don't think he's a Super Bowl quarterback.
Okay, well, so far you have Big Ben, you have Andrew Luck, and you have Matthew Stafford behind James.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's about to get very interesting here. I'm going to go one by one here because we're going to the next rung. We have the next rung and then another one and then the bottom rung. And so Jameis, if he's already getting three, Jameis, you're sitting pretty with Roy Cummings potentially. I'm with Justin. I don't have anybody behind Jameis Winston yet.
Before we go any further, let me just say this. Let me just point something out. And if you've been listening to this podcast, you probably heard me say this a couple of times. I'm just going to point out that through his first 4 years in the NFL, Jameis Winston has more touchdown passes and more yards thrown than all but 8 other quarterbacks in NFL history. Okay? So go on now. Go to the next group.
Yeah, but how many turnovers does he have compared to this?
And Roy,
okay, how many times has he had a lead?
and how many times did Terry Bradshaw have a chance to put up these kind of numbers? I mean, that's kind of a misleading stat that the PR department likes to throw out there to me. That
I think it's legit. You base you base your evaluation of quarterbacks, if you're going to do it statistically, on touchdown passes, yards, interceptions, completion percentage. Those are the big numbers, right? Completion percentage gets better every year. Yards and touchdowns, again, 9th all time through 4 years, okay? And by the way, we're talking about numbers better than Hall of Fame quarterbacks, okay? Hall of Fame quarterbacks. And
Roy.
He's turned the ball over a lot. That's an area he's got to clean up. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, but
you know
we're
what?
in different.
Same issue, turning the ball over throughout his entire career. And everybody would take Brett Favre over just about almost any quarterback in NFL history.
We're in a different era, though. You can't compare previous eras of Hall of Fame QBs to this era now.
I get it.
All right, let's move forward here. I'm going to go one by one now because Justin and I have 0 so far. Roy has 3. Okay, Baker Mayfield. Would you take Jameis over Baker Mayfield?
Yes.
Wow.
I would at this point too. I think.
Would you really?
I haven't seen enough from Baker, and I think Baker's just as immature as Jameis has shown to be. So.
No, I don't think he's as immature. I mean, he doesn't. He's a wild guy, but he doesn't get arrested. And there's a big difference. There's a big difference between chugging a beer and doing the Uber and doing all the things Jameis has been accused of. I'll definitely.
I'm not gonna give up on Jason. I'm not gonna give up on Jameis Winston for a guy who's had one good year.
Yeah, I agree on that.
And we're still not sure about his
work. He's only played 1
year.
It's 1 for 1.
But that's what I'm saying. Because of that, I would.
But that's it. I'm sorry. That 1 year's not good enough.
Right, I agree.
Based on what I know about him off the field and work habits and scouting reports and durability and
What's
that
wrong
kind
with
of
his
thing.
work habits?
What's that?
What's wrong with his work habits?
Well, you talk to people around the league, and they'll tell you that they're not sure he's got the work habits that they want. They're not sure he's the guy who's going to be in the building for at 5 o'clock in the morning and busting his ass to get better. They're not sure that he'll be that guy.
Okay, I haven't heard that. Let's go Jared Goff over Jameis Winston.
I would take Jared Goff.
I would too.
I would take Jared Goff in this case. But I'll tell you what. After his first year, there was when I think about Jared Goff, that's when I kind of laugh sometimes at people who are starting to tear down Ronald Jones about how he's a bust and Ronald Jones is never going to be any good in this league. It's like, you know what? A lot of people are saying that about Jared Goff after his first year in the league. You just can't base too much, even though I just did it on Baker Mayfield, but you can't put too much on one team.
Exactly.
Turn around.
Say that. All right.
Football player.
Okay. Jameis is over for me. Justin has Baker. Roy has 4 quarterbacks that Jameis would beat out. Okay, Jimmy Garoppolo.
I'll take Jameis Winston.
I haven't seen Jimmy Garoppolo has not impressed me. I think I would take Jameis as well.
This is really tough, but Jameis, you finally won. I take Jameis Winston over Jimmy Garoppolo. I think it's going to be an interesting season for Jimmy Garoppolo. Let's see what he does when healthy and away from New England, and especially they play each other in that first game. So Jameis, I think you won across the board.
Isn't this his third year from New England though? I mean,
no, this is really he won
down
the stretch.
Full year.
Yeah, he won down the stretch in San Francisco. Then he basically was hurt all last year. So this is his third year, but it's kind of, to me, really that first full year.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
because he had the off season with and he's kind of learning the new system out there too. All right, Deshaun Watson.
I'd take Deshaun in a heartbeat.
Me too.
Yeah, I think I would take Deshaun Watson.
Was that hard, Roy?
Well, I'm just a little bit concerned about his style. I don't know.
Roy, are you enjoying this game?
What's that?
Are you enjoying this game?
Yeah, I am. I'm just a little bit concerned about Deshaun Watson's style as a player. I don't look. His athleticism is ridiculous. His skill set is ridiculous. I just don't know how sturdy he can be. One of the things I like about Jameis Winston is he can stand in there and take a beating and survive it. The only issue he's ever had was an arm issue, and that was a result of, again, here's a guy getting out there and running and, trying to make a play out of something, and he took a bad hit and took an awkward fall. But other than that, this guy's been pretty sturdy. I concern myself with that with Deshaun Watson a bit.
Jameis Winston, if you're listening to this podcast, Jameis Winston, Roy Cummings should be your favorite member of the media, easily. Okay, Carson Wentz.
I'd probably take Carson. Yeah,
I worry about the injuries, but when healthy,
too.
there's no way I pick Jameis over him. Roy,
I take Jameis Winston, and you just said why? The injuries. The injuries, and by the way, look, when the Eagles it's not Carson Wentz getting the Eagles to the playoffs or getting them deep or getting them to the Super Bowl. Okay, that quarterback's in Jacksonville,
and he's coming. He's coming up the list in a second. Think about him.
He was a backup that everybody gave up on. I'm not so sure that the Eagles' best quarterback is in Philadelphia anymore. I think they gave him away to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, look, I like Carson Wentz a lot. I think he's a talented player, but he's having trouble staying healthy, man, and availability matters.
And, Justin, you take Carson over Jameis?
Yeah, I would. I agree with his injury history is concerning, but I would take that gamble.
If we're talking about skill set only and execution, yeah, I'm taking Carson Wentz. But I just don't know that I can count on Carson Wentz being there for 16 weeks out of a season. I at this point, I'm pretty sure I can rely on Jameis Winston being there as long as he doesn't do something stupid off the field, which I think is behind him.
And okay, Dak Prescott.
I'd take Jameis.
Wow. Okay. Roy?
This one's a bit of a toss-up for me.
Rank and file, baby. We're loving the rank and file.
I think Dak's overrated.
I sort of agree with you, Justin, but I also think that he's got I liken him a lot to Russell Wilson, which means, and by that I mean, and almost like Jameis Winston, he's a guy who I think finds a way to get the job done. He's benefited immensely from the fact that, his first year they had a tremendous running game. He's got a tremendous offensive line. I don't think Jameis Winston benefits from any of that. And that's part of my reasoning here. Jameis Winston benefits from nothing. He's got a crap offensive line. He's got no running game. He's got no defense. He's had no kicker. And yet he still finds a way to get the job done, his job. Unfortunately, Chase tries to take too much on himself. This one's a bit of a toss-up for me based on the fact that he's been able to build confidence and probably figured out a way to win in the NFL the way you're supposed to win as an NFL quarterback. I think I would take Dak Prescott over Jameis, but Justin, I'm right there with you. I think he's a little bit overrated, but I think I would take him because I think the intangibles right now allow for Dak Prescott to have a better future going forward, that when the tough times hit, he's going to know how to act as a quarterback, whereas Jameis has still got the belief that it's all on my shoulders, which, by the way, it is, and it always has been here in Tampa.
Well, I like the fact that Dak Prescott came in as a very low draft pick, really pushed Tony Romo into retirement. And, he has a lot more weapons, but it's a big stage in Dallas. He showed a lot of poise early. I think, he's only going to get better. But I agree. I take Dak over Jameis. You take Jameis over Dak, Justin?
Yeah. I think Dak lives and dies by the run game. And when Ezekiel Elliott is playing, Dak looks so much better. And it just seems like when Zeke's not in or if they can't run the ball, that's, to me, when Dak struggles.
And, Roy, you take Dak over Jameis?
I think I would, and again, just because I think he's learned. I think Jameis Winston, unfortunately, and Justin just hit on it. Justin, you almost made my point for me. If Jameis Winston could live and die by the running game or the offensive line in front of him, he'd be a different quarterback right now. We wouldn't be talking about all the picks because I think at least a third of them, if not nearly half of them, would be eliminated because he wouldn't have to make throws that he makes and end up getting picked because he's behind and trying to play catch up. But I think Dak Prescott has learned as a result of that support system, how to play quarterback effectively and at a winning level in the NFL, whereas I'm not sure Jameis Winston has figured that out yet because he hasn't had a chance to figure that out.
All right, we got a lot of names. This is really going to get interesting now. Before we get to the next rung of quarterbacks, let's finish out this third tier. Cam Newton, guys. Would you take Jameis over Cam Newton?
No.
Roy?
No.
Okay, me either. All right, let's go to the next rung. This is really going to be fun. We have this rung, and then we have the low rung. And Jameis has gotten a lot more support than I thought he would at this point, so I think the numbers will only continue to grow. Kirk Cousins or Jameis Winston?
Ooh, that's tough.
Mm-hmm. You know what? How about this, guys? I'm going to take Winston over Cousins. Because I think he's better.
I'm taking Kirk Cousins.
Roy and I aren't going to agree on squat in this podcast.
I'll take Kirk Cousins, and here's why. Because when he's had a good team around him and support from upper management and the coaching staff, he's proven to be a pretty good quarterback. Again, a guy who knows how to win, knows how to manage a game properly, knows how to
most overpaid quarterback in the history of the NFL, though, probably.
Say it again.
Probably the most overpaid quarterback in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, but you know what? That's what happens when you knock it out of the park. Going into free agency.
Good for him. All right, so you pick Cousins over Jameis, Justin?
Yeah, I will.
This is tough. This is almost a coin flip for me.
We got a lot of names. We got to move.
All right, I would say Cousins, I think.
Okay, you take Cousins over Jameis. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston?
Come on, is it really even a question?
Yeah, I'd take Winston.
Okay. I think Andy Dalton loses all three of us here. I'm keeping tabs here, guys. Rank and file. I'm keeping close stats here. Eli Manning or Jameis Winston?
Ooh, current Eli Manning, I'd take Winston.
I'd take Jameis Winston over Eli Manning.
I can't take Jameis Winston over Ben Roethlisberger and Phillip Rivers because of their age and the fact that they probably hit the point in their career when they're on the downslide, and then take him and then not take him over Eli Manning. So look, I'm not sure Eli Manning is going to start week 3 of the NFL regular season in New York with a rookie behind him. So I'll take Jameis Winston.
Roy Cummings using precedence on rank and file. I love it. Moving forward. Okay. Nick Foles, baby, or Jameis Winston? Right now, I'm taking Nick Foles.
I don't know. Nick Foles to me is like the anti-Peyton Manning. He seems to not do well in the regular season and then just turns it on in the post.
Or the anti-Jameis Winston.
Yeah. If he could get there. I don't know. Nick Foles has done some amazing things. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if he's as consistent as I would like. That's a tough one.
Take Jameis over Foles.
Oh, I can't believe I'm saying this. I think I would.
Okay, Roy.
I'm taking Jameis Winston because I think Nick Foles is a rich man's Case Keenum.
Ooh, yes, that's a great analogy.
I think he's good he's good for a few games. He's really good in the clutch. No doubt about that. But I think he's only good for 4, 5, 6 games tops. If you need him over 16 games, he's not going to get you where you want to go. If he can be, he can come in like a good, strong relief pitcher and keep you in the game till the bats come alive, and make some plays for you. But at the end of the day, I just don't think he's the guy to carry you over the course of a season and through the playoffs. He can carry you through the playoffs, but I don't know if he's the guy who can get you there as your starter.
All right,
that's exactly how I see him.
Right now, Roy Cummings has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 quarterbacks he would pick Jameis Winston over. Justin has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I have 4. And I think the numbers are going to be added to the list here. Joe Flacco or Jameis Winston?
I'd take Jameis.
Roy?
Jameis. Flacco's already out of a job for the most part.
Right.
He's hanging on.
Okay. I take Jameis over Flacco as well. Derek Carr or Jameis Winston?
I like the potential in Carr. I think I would take Carr over Winston.
He's kind of like Jameis Winston, and he's like the Jameis Winston of the
Yes.
AFC. He's with a bad football team. He's made some mistakes. He's had some up and downs, but you see potential. And right now, I got to say, I like Derek Carr, but I would take Jameis Winston over Derek Carr.
Wow, this is interesting because I would take Derek Carr over Jameis
Oh,
Winston.
my God. Billy Joel or Elton John? Oh, that's right.
Man.
That's right.
How about that? No, I would take Derek Carr, and because I think, and you just pointed out, Mike, I think he's learned his lessons about how you can't, despite the fact that you know it's all on your shoulders when you got a bad team around you, you can't go and try to do more than what your job is. You can't make up for a 17-point deficit with one throw. And I think he gets that, whereas Jameis Winston is yet to prove to us that he does get that. And I'm not sure that he ever will. But I think Derek Carr has shown that, although I do think he's about to slide because of John Gruden.
That's my tipping point. Jameis has Bruce Arians. Derek Carr has Chucky. Good luck, Derek, and congratulations, Jameis. Okay, we're here at the bottom rung of rank and file. I hope you listeners have enjoyed this because I really have, because I feel like if I throw anything against the wall, Roy and I are going to disagree. But we may agree on some of these. This is kind of the lower rung, a lot of up-and-comers, a lot of guys who haven't proven themselves. Mitchell Trubisky or Jameis Winston? I'll lead off. I like Trubisky a lot. I think he doesn't get enough credit. I think he's a really kind of a dual guy. He's pretty accurate. He makes good decisions. He's good on his feet. Right now, I like what I've seen out of him. The Bears don't have a lot of splash on offense, but he's won some games for them and took them to the playoffs already. I like Trubisky over Winston.
I think I need another season before I would pick Trubisky over Winston.
Roy?
Yeah, I think I agree with I agree with both of you. I like what I've seen out of Trubisky, but I'm just not sure I'm ready to buy on him just yet. I believe Jameis Winston can still get better and will always be an impact player. But I'll take Winston I'll just a slight nudge over Trubisky here.
And Justin, you had Derek Carr or Winston? I can't remember.
I had Derek Carr.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, Sam Darnold. Roy loved this guy coming out of college. I, of course, love Baker Mayfield, and I got to say I loved him even more when he chugged beers the other night. That's a whole nother story. Sam Darnold or Jameis Winston?
I think Sam Darnold has the potential to be really good, but as of now, at this moment, I would pick Winston.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm taking Winston too, and here's why. Yeah, I love Sam Darnold's makeup, but you know what? I watched an awful lot of him his senior year at USC. And what I saw was a guy who consistently, in my opinion, failed to make the play that needed to be made to either get his team back in a game or nail down a victory. Eventually he got it done, but I just saw a guy who just sort of struggled to make that play. And I think there's a lot of people in love with Sam Darnold because of his size and his background and his just the intangible makeup, because he's got all that. But I think when it comes to execution, I sort of felt like, and again, we saw it in with the Jets last year. And again, it's only 1 year, so I don't want to put too much on it. But we just saw like an inability to make the big play when you really need it. Whereas with Jameis Winston, I think he's got an ability to make that big play. I mean, if Jameis Winston's going to be on a highlight film, it's probably him scrambling away from pressure, for 8 or 9 seconds, and then heaving the ball down the field and finding an open receiver. So, and I don't see that kind of playmaking out of Sam Darnold just yet. So I'm taking Jameis Winston here.
Jameis with the rare sweep across the board. I picked Jameis over Sam Darnold as well. All right, we go to Washington. This is kind of an interesting quarterback deal up there. I think a lot of people see maybe Colt McCoy being the starter up there while they get the rookie kind of going. Jameis Winston or Colt McCoy? I definitely take Jameis Winston in this one.
Yeah, no contest.
Yeah, no contest is right.
2 sweeps in a row for Jameis Winston. He's on fire in this lower rung of starting quarterbacks in the NFL. All right, we go to Buffalo. Josh Allen or Jameis Winston? If I'm going to pick Jameis over Sam Darnold, I'm picking him over Josh Allen.
Yep.
Yep.
This is getting easier. I knew it would get easier. Roy came out of the gates firing. Okay, Lamar Jackson, Baltimore, or Jameis Winston?
Jameis.
Jameis.
Wow. 3.
Lamar Jackson did a lot of running around last year. Everybody thought that was really cool.
Speaking of that,
what did he complete? About 38% of his passes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take Jameis Winston.
Speaking of running for his life, Kyler Murray or Jameis Winston?
Oh, Jameis, definitely.
Jameis.
Jameis is on friggin' fire in the lower rung of NFL quarterbacks. 2 more, and I got to throw in this one. This is really interesting. I probably should have put this higher. Josh Rosen or Ryan Fitzpatrick or Jameis Winston? I take Jameis over both those guys.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, I would take him over both as well.
I'm just putting Dolphins. And last but not least, in rank and file, and Jameis Winston, you're picking up some steam, my friend. Jameis Winston or Marcus Mariota, his NFL draft buddy?
Ooh.
This is easy for me. I'm definitely picking Jameis here.
Yeah.
I know Mariota's led them to the playoffs, but to me, I like Jameis Winston coming out of the draft. I think Jameis Winston's a better quarterback. And to me, if Jameis Winston, if Arians can really fix him and checking down and making the right decisions, I think Jameis, the reason I really like him over Mariota, especially in the draft, I think he's a clutch quarterback, and he's more clutch than Mariota.
I agree. You took the words out of my mouth.
We really were arguing about Jason Lucky. We were going tooth and nail and rank and file, and then it's a big group hug for Roy Cummings and I at the end. All right, I'm gonna tally this up, okay?
Yeah.
All right, for Roy Cummings, Jameis Winston, of the 31 quarterbacks in the NFL, he would take him over 18 of them.
18? Really?
18 of them. Justin
Wow.
Thomas, 15 of them. So basically, you take him over half.
Yeah.
Myself, he really picked up steam late.
You probably got 9 or so.
You better be in the double digits.
13.
There you go.
13.
See?
18,
We're not all
15,
that far
13.
off.
18, 15, 13. You know what kind of helped Jameis in my list? Is I was the contrarian. I was the Cousins contrarian there at the end. All right, so I think Jameis Winston, if you ask your average Bucs fan, I think they say this team will probably win 5 or 6 games. I'd like to throw this out there on Twitter, though, and ask Bucs fans, how many quarterbacks of the 31 in the NFL would you take over Jameis Winston? I think it'd be some interesting responses. I think, though, we have kind of a representative poll. I think it would be somewhere between me and Roy. It would be somewhere between 13 and 18, which is Justin Thomas, 15.
Look at that.
There you go.
So rank and file, unscientific, but very scientific in a lot of ways. Before we go to our favorite segment, More Likely, Roy Cummings and I were very busy in the locker room after the second preseason game. The third preseason game coming up. I can't wait to chug beers with Baker Mayfield when he comes in town. That's going to take place this weekend. But Roy Cummings had a chance to talk to Jameis Winston about what he sees for himself in that third preseason game when the ones get the most reps in the so-called dress rehearsal.
Jameis, excited to get into that third game and get a chance to really play a little bit?
Very excited. It's been kind of like getting teased for one drive at a time, but I'm very excited for
Any goals for that game? What do you want to see personally from yourself?
to get better and execute.
Good stuff, Roy Cummings and Jameis Winston. That was kind of the media scrum, but Cummings, as he always does, took control there and asked the big questions. All right, before we go, it's time for our favorite segment. More Likely, baby. You know what? I'm not a Jameis Winston hater. I'm kind of a disappointer. I rooted for Jameis Winston coming to Tampa Bay. Kind of disappointed me off the field, disappointed me on the field a little bit. But I do think he's going to have a better season with Bruce Arians. How much better? We shall see. Which leads us to the first More Likely, guys. And, I'm starting to think Justin's not copying off Roy's paper as much, but I'm still going to let him go first. More likely, who's the bigger beneficiary of Bruce Arians? Is it Jason Licht or is it Jameis Winston?
I think you have to go with Winston. I mean, he's the one person that kind of controls the team, at least offensively. And if he can fix that issue, who knows how many games they can win. I think Jason Light, what he's done, as Roy has said, there's been some hits and some misses, but at the end of the day, Jameis is the one who's running the team on the field. And so I think if he can fix that, that could be huge.
That's very good analysis, Justin. Roy Cummings?
It is good analysis, and I agree with Justin. I think it's Jameis Winston, and the reason being that look, Bruce Arians, much like Dirk Cutter, was brought here for one reason, to fix Jameis Winston. I think the Buccaneers believe that they've got holes, they've got areas they had to clean up, no doubt about it. But they've got a big investment in the quarterback, and I think they also realize that there aren't a whole lot of guys like that out there in the draft. You've seen. Look at what we just did. None of us would take Kyler Murray over Jameis Winston. Nobody's taken Josh Allen or Josh Rosen over Jameis Winston. There's questions as to whether you would take Marcus Mariota. I mean, since that draft, who are the quarterbacks that you would take over Jameis Winston? Not very many. So I think that Jameis Winston stands to benefit the most here because the Buccaneers realize that they've got an asset. And it's really just a matter of refining that asset, and that's what Bruce Arians is here, much like why Dirk Cutter was here. And I think they just felt that look, Dirk took him this far. Now Bruce is going to take him to the point where he becomes the player we always envisioned him to be. So I think it's definitely Jameis Winston.
I'm disagreeing with both you guys. Jameis Winston, if he flops in Tampa, athletes who are great, they get second chances. General managers, they often don't. And if they do get a second chance, they got to kind of buy their time for a while. Jason Light is the biggest recipient of Bruce Arians. If Bruce Arians doesn't come to Tampa, I don't know if Jason Light, how much longer he's here. Maybe the Glazers buy him out, bring in a coach that wants full control, and he's unemployed. Who knows with his track record if he ever gets a general manager job again. Instead, he gets a 5-year friggin' extension. Are you kidding me? Bruce Arians and Jason Light, to me, that's the biggest beneficiary of the new head coach. All right. The second more likely, I like to go around the NFL for this one. Roy, I don't know if you had a chance to catch that Saints Chargers game on Sunday. Did you see any of that?
What segment was that again?
Did you see the Saints Chargers game on Sunday?
You know what? I saw the end of it.
Okay. So you saw the backup quarterback Taysom Hill.
No, I did not.
Okay. Well, Taysom Hill for the New Orleans Saints, he wears number 7, and it's kind of fitting because he's played 7 different positions. The guy has played quarterback, of course, wide receiver, running back. He's returned kicks, asked the Bucs. He's blocked punts. The guy is unbelievable. Almost puts up 200 total yards. He enters right before the half against the Chargers, and he threw for 9 straight completions down the stretch. And I know it's against the Chargers, eighth team, but he led a victory. More likely, guys, Roy Cummings, you've covered the NFL for a while. I'm going to kind of flip-flop it. I don't know how much you've seen from Taysom Hill. You've seen him a little bit. But has there ever been, more likely, a more exciting backup quarterback in NFL history than Taysom Hill?
Well, there probably has been. Lamar Jackson was a backup for a while last year with Baltimore. But I'll tell you what, Taysom Hill just brings he's just a football player. And he's somebody like, you don't see too many guys like him in this league. First of all, you don't see too many quarterbacks who are allowed to do anything but play quarterback. The Saints, aren't afraid that, obviously because they're not leaning on him to be their top quarterback, but so they use him in so many different roles. But I'll tell you what, I'll put it this way. I think he's worth the price of admission on a Saints team that's already got Drew Brees and some pretty good receivers, so I would pay just to watch this guy play because you don't know what he's going to do next. You don't know where he's going to be, and it'd be fun to watch that stuff. So there's probably been more exciting quarterbacks that have been backups, but certainly no one more versatile.
Justin Thomas, what say you?
I was trying to look it up. Y'all can help me out. Was Doug Flutie, before he started, he was
call.
A backup, right?
Good call. Yes.
Sure.
And Buffalo, because they picked up Rob Johnson, and they kind of went back and forth for a while. And then for other teams as well. The Bears, he came in and filled in.
The Bears was that's what I thought. So I I mean, Doug Flutie was an amazing player, especially for his size. I have to agree with everything Roy said, though. I can't remember a player who can play so many positions. Like Roy said, I mean, he's just really good at football. He's so athletic. And I mean, he's talented at everything he does. I don't know if he's good enough to be a starting QB, but he definitely deserves to be on any NFL team. That's how talented I think he is.
Here's a way to look at it, guys. Is there a second string player in the NFL that you would pay to see? That when you go to the game, you say, boy, I sure hope he plays. I can't wait to watch that guy.
That's a good point.
I don't know who they are.
That's a great point. How many second string any players are selling jerseys like he's probably selling?
Yeah. I think that's a big difference, and that's what makes him special. Is he can do just about anything, and he's, like I said, to me he's worth the price of admission.
Sean Payton said something very interesting because he made a comparison, and he said he thinks that Taysom Hill is the fastest quarterback in NFL history besides Michael Vick. Now, I would have picked Michael Vick as probably the most exciting backup quarterback when he came back from his jail sentence, and he backed up Donovan McNabb, and then he took over.
Yes.
Those couple of years that he played in Philadelphia, I remember he was playing out of his mind, maybe as good as anybody in NFL history. And I hate to be a prisoner of the moment with Taysom Hill, and I know Sean Payton's his head coach, but Sean Payton believes this guy could be kind of the modern-day Steve Young. And you know what? I think this guy, given time, can be a starting quarterback in the NFL. But right now, the challenge for him is he's got to get ready in the offense to be a starting quarterback, but also be receiver and running back. He throws the deep ball often when Drew Brees, is counted on to do that. So he's given all these responsibilities in the offense. But I think when he is solely the quarterback, it'll be interesting to see what waves he makes. And I'll throw this out there, guys. What if Tim Tebow, I know he's definitely not the quarterback that Taysom Hill is, but if Tim Tebow would have agreed to play tight end, to kind of move around in an offense, I think he definitely would have extended his NFL career at least 5 or 6 years.
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah.
No doubt.
All right, final more likely, and I'll give Justin this because Justin and I talked about this earlier today. He doesn't know this is coming, but we all have our favorite TV shows. I just got done with Mad Men on Netflix, and I really liked that show until the last season. They just laid an egg, man. I thought the last season was just god-awful, and I thought the last show was god-awful. What sitcom, I'm going to throw 2 out here, or it doesn't have to be a sitcom. It could be your favorite TV show. Were you more likely the most disappointed with its final season or its final show? I'm throwing out Seinfeld, Sopranos. I will say Mad Men because I loved that show until the last season. I thought the last show was terrible. So more likely, what do you say, Justin?
It has to be those 3?
No, you can go off the board.
Oh, cool. I have to say, and this is very recent, but I was very disappointed with the way Game of Thrones ended, especially if you would have asked me at the beginning of this last season, if what was my favorite show, I probably would have said Game of Thrones, but the way it ended, it would drop down significantly. So of recent memory, that's probably the one I would choose.
Roy Cummings.
I'm going to go with Seinfeld. I thought it was one of the worst episodes ever. one of the most forgettable episodes ever. And, there was so much built. That's one of the problems is that there's so much of a buildup nowadays to the end of season or shows. They know the end is coming. They've had enough. They don't want to do it anymore. And so they got to have this special, blowout where they turn off the lights or whatever, like on Cheers or something. And, and it's always a little disappointing. To me, I think you'd be better off just run a regular show, man. And if that's the end, that's the end. We don't have to have closure. I didn't get closure on Dick Van Dyke. I didn't get closure on All in the Family.
That's a good point.
So to me, I think there's sometimes too much is put on these final episodes, and they probably overthink it. And I think that's what happened with Game of Thrones, Mad Men, all of them.
I agree. The only thing is, I think what you said works better for sitcoms, comedies, whereas typically dramas or other type shows, you do need some kind of closure.
Right.
Like Sopranos would be a good example versus Seinfeld. Yeah, Seinfeld could have ended on any other episode, and it probably would have been okay. But if you were to just end randomly on a Sopranos episode that didn't have closure, you'd probably have even more fans upset at the way that ended.
I will say the best ending to a show I thought was Newhart when they woke up and it was all a dream. I kind of thought that was kind of funny. Yeah. Well, listen, Roy, rank and file, our first one. How'd you feel about it?
I liked it, man. It's challenging. I like it. Look, you're going to throw some controversial stuff out there. Some people are going to say we're nuts for some of our picks, and some people are going to say right on. So, it's all opinion. Doesn't make any difference. We'll see. Let the players play, and let's see how it goes. I'll tell you what. It just, to me, it shows just how important the season this is ahead for Jameis Winston and the Buccaneers. There's an awful lot riding on this season for that player and that team. So let's see where it goes.
I think we could have fun with Bruce Arians in rank and file. I think we could have fun with Mike Evans. And Bucs don't have a lot of marquee guys, but I think you kind of pick either the most controversial or the upper echelon guys and rank and file them among the NFL. Well, nice job, guys. I appreciate Justin Thomas pulling down the sound. I appreciate Roy Cummings disagreeing with all of my opinions in this podcast. You can check us out on all the platforms, on iTunes, on Podbean, on Stitcher, on Spotify, and Google+. And please subscribe to pewterpirates.com. We're going to release a great video wrap that Roy and I shot at Raymond James Stadium, kind of summarizing camp so far and also looking ahead to the Bucs' third preseason game, the dress rehearsal against the Cleveland Browns on Friday night. So for Justin Thomas and Roy Cummings, I'm merely Mike Nabors. Thanks for checking us out, and we'll talk to you again next week.